Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Today I'm going to work on my Ficus microcarpa cutting of a cutting. I last pruned this tree in December of last year, so it's almost been an entire year that it's grown. And it grew kind of okay. It had scale insects on it, so I picked them off and sprayed the tree, and it's recovering quite nicely now, but it didn't have a great summer of growing. I'm going to prune the tree today and repot it, trying to improve the radial root system. Here is a look at the tree. So this was always the front, and I changed it to the back because I did some pretty severe cuts and it was quite scarred up. So there's a look at the present front, and that could change, as I've mentioned before, that once these scars heal up, this could become the front again. So I'm keeping both options open. Beside the Ficus cutting of a cutting, you will see a new pot, and this was given to me by the Toronto Bonsai Society as part of the reward for winning Best Tropical in the show. And this is a Wayne Malleau pot, and you can see it was fired to 1,285 degrees Celsius or 2,354 degrees Fahrenheit. Average absorption is 0.3%. Fully vitrified, winter functional. Now this pot is kind of a special pot. It has the stamp of the Toronto Bonsai Society down here, their 60th anniversary. So it's a special pot. I was really happy to get it. So there's Wayne's signature down here and his new chop right here. So these pots, they have red on the inside lip of the drainage hole, and that makes it kind of special because this is very representative of 2024 for Wayne's pots. So thanks very much to the Toronto Bonsai Society for that gift. I really appreciate it, and thanks to Wayne also. I was also given some prize money for winning Best Tropical of their 60th anniversary show. I think I'm still a little giddy about winning that prize, so thank you very much. So now I'm going to begin the work on my Ficus microcarpa. I'm going to begin the work. I've got this lower branch down here that I really like, kind of a spreading, almost a second trunk coming off the tree. And I've got this vertical shoot that grew on the tree, so I want to remove that totally and just keep this lower branch spreading out. So my first cut will be to remove that vertical branch. So here I go, and I'm just looking for scale insects. I don't see any on it, so that's good. So there's my first cut. I'm also going to prune up this lower branch, so I'll remove all the stubs from previous pruning just to clean the branch up, and then I can prune it back. I've got two leaves back here, so I'll shorten it back to there. This one has a stub I can clean up, and I will also prune this. I've got a leaf out the back here, one on the bottom which is growing a new branch already. So I think I'm looking for leaf scars. There's some out here, so I could, safely prune it at least to here. That might be good, and then hopefully, someday I'll get some back budding back here. The one out the back here, again, I'll clean up my stubs, and I've got a leaf way back here that I think would be a good leaf to prune back to because the flow of the branch is out this direction. I don't want it getting too 90 degrees to the flow, so I'll prune it back to here, leaving a bit of a stub. So that's got the lower branch pruned up, kind of a flat spreading branch. Now in previous videos, I'm going up the tree, I have this branch, and they're kind of ladder branches, one above the other. And my intention last time was to grow this branch out this direction and this one out the other direction. And I'm not sure I want to do that. It kind of bothers me having the two branches on this side. This one's kind of on the outside of a curve, and it's a better looking branch than the one above it. And this upper branch is getting very thick, well, because I allowed it to grow. So I have a couple of choices. I could prune it back to a stump and see what happens here, or I could totally remove it and just keep this lower branch. If I totally remove it, then I've got, my lower trunk down here, first branch here, and kind of nothing in this area until I get up top, which may be okay. It's kind of a tough decision. I do have a leaf scar here, so I could prune it off here. Let me try that for starters. So here I go, taking that off. And then I'll prune up this lower branch. I'll clean up my stubs. Oh, the leaves are falling like crazy outside. I'll prune it back. I've got a pair of leaves back here, so I can shorten it to here. This one, I got a stub here I can clean up. And then again, I've got a leaf here going out the bottom, which has already sprouted a branch. And then my first leaf scar is out here, so I'll take it back to here. And these branches, as they mature, they will back bud eventually, and I can shorten them. Kind of like this lower branch, you can see how thick it is, and then it's got taper and movement to it, so it's looking quite good. I would like to prune this one back further. I think it's too long. I'm going to go back to this leaf here. Like that. I think that's better. Okay, so I'll keep going up the tree. So I notice here, if I follow this trunk line, I've got a branch to the left and kind of a bar branch to the right. So two branches kind of coming out at the same point on the tree. I do like this branch. It's a good looking branch. This one is more of an upright, so I could keep it, keep this as a branch, and then have this trunk line dividing into two here. If I remove it, I've got kind of nothing on this side of the tree. It'll look more like a wind-blown tree. Tis a tough decision. They're always tough decisions on trees. Well, I'll definitely clean up the stub here and prune it back. I can go at least to here, taking that off. This branch coming out here, I've got a downward facing leaf here, I can prune it back to. This one, I've got a leaf here I could prune back to. And you can hard prune these Ficus microcarpa back to, bare wood, and generally they generate new branches quite easily. This one I'm going to take back to this leaf, shortening that. There's a stub here I can clean up. Now, this branch, if I keep this branch, it's kind of growing over top of it, so this branch would shade out this lower one. And I think I do like the one on this side because it kind of fills out this area. So I'm going to prune this one back to that leaf, taking the top off there. The branch out the back here, I'm going to shorten to here, taking the top off that. This branch is the one I'm thinking about. I think I'm going to remove it. I have a back branch here, and these two branches kind of run parallel to each other. So if I kept this one, I think I'd have to remove this back branch here. And yeah, it's a tough decision. I think this one's got to go, so it's coming off. So here I go, like that. I think that looks fine. This branch I can definitely shorten also. I've already pruned it once, but I have a leaf here. It's a little long looking. I think I'm going to prune it back to here. Taking that off. Like that. So if this is the front of the tree, this canopy is looking quite nice. If this is the front of the tree, it's a nice back branch, but I've got to prune these ones up. So let's work on that next. This one, I've got a leaf way back here. I'm going to prune it off to here. Yeah. Like that. This branch, it's getting quite long. I'll at least prune it to here. And at least to here. To downward facing leaves. So the branch continues to kind of grow horizontally. Then I've got a branch coming out the front here that I'll want to redirect out more to the side, so I can take it right back to here, to this leaf. And then I've got, this branch is very strong. This, I think, branch, this thinner one is going a better direction. It has a change of movement, whereas this one kind of just continues that trunk line without any change of direction or movement. So I think I want to grow this as the apex, which means I'd have to take this one back fairly hard. So I'll at least take it back to here, like that, taking that off. And then this one I'll prune off. There's a leaf facing forward here, which is nice, but I think I will just prune the tip off, keeping a bit of strength in these upright ones. And then this one, I'll prune back to this leaf right here. One facing forward. So that's got, I think, the basic pruning completed. I do like the idea of this branch kind of filling out this section. So I think I'm really undecided about these two branches. If I should remove this lower one, which is a nice branch, and have my canopy higher so you see more of trunk line. Do I leave it for another year or another day? I'm not sure. I do like, you know, this one eventually becoming part of the canopy. I think I'm going to take this one back a bit further. There's a leaf scar here, and maybe this one back a bit further too. Like that. Yeah, I think everything else is looking quite good. If this becomes the front, and this is my canopy, I can prune off this upright part on this back branch later on. And then if this is the front, you know, this will become the canopy. And I think the back one is okay, but it could be flattened out a bit in the future. So I think I'm going to leave it at this. See what happens in this area. I can always prune it in the future if it's bothering me a lot. At the present moment, I think it's still acceptable. I think the tree is coming along quite nicely. It's got lots of movement, taper, character to it. So I'm quite happy with the upper part of the tree. So next I want to remove the moss, look at the root base, and repot it. Here's a look at what I took off the tree. There's the tree. And here is what I took off. So, you know, quite a bit, a lot of foliage. But I think it'll recover quickly. I'm going to put it in the plant room under the lights. It'll get warmth, lots of light and humidity, and it should fill in very, very quickly. I'm finished using my good pruners. So after you've pruned a ficus, it's best to spray them with soap and water to get the sap off. So I'll get a rag and just clean the blades. Oh, there's a lot of leaves falling down outside. Clean the blades off. Being careful not to cut myself. These are very, very sharp. Yeah. And then I've got a bit of oil here, olive oil, and I just smear it on the blades to stop them rusting. And if you have like a can of WD-40 or any light oil, you can just spray them with a spray can. And that should keep them in good shape. Oil up the handles a bit. I'll put my tray, my serving tray, underneath the tree. I can pick it up. There we go. And I want to remove all the moss. This is getting very thick and it's kind of obscuring the roots. So I will get my tweezers and just start picking out the moss. And you'll find there's a lot of roots that have grown into the moss that do that with these ficus. Wherever there's moisture, the roots grow. So this pot is a nice Korean pot that it's in. And it'll be interesting to see if the roots have filled the pot or not. We've had very good weather this fall. We've had 3 frosts so far. And there was one night it was below freezing, 1 degree below freezing. And tonight is also going to be 1 degree below freezing. So our second kind of really cool night. So make sure all the trees are in the greenhouse here. Put the heat on overnight. And then it warms up once again, quite high. So the trees can go back outside on the benches and bask in the sunlight. Okay, I think it's time to get the tree out of the pot now. So, let me see how I can do this. Yeah, so it's got a good mat of roots on the bottom, but you can see here the roots haven't totally filled the container. So it's not really pot bound, but it's at a good level for repotting, where it's not too packed in that it makes repotting really difficult. So I will clean up here and then start to comb out the soil from the roots. Okay, I've got my root rake and I'll just start untangling and combing out the root system. I may have to dig in here a bit and just tease the roots out. Okay, I think I've got the roots to a level where I can wash them. I've got most of the soil removed. The roots are combed out quite well. So I'll take it to my tub of water and give it a wash. All right, into the water it goes. Swish it around. Do a bit of raking. Here is a look at the root base. So there's quite some thick roots in here, which aren't always a bad thing, you know, as long as they have movement, taper. So where to begin? Well, let's begin with the worst parts here. This big bulbous root here that's fattening up, and it's kind of growing across this other root, and it's kind of not really tapering down into the soil much. So my approach on this, let's have a look at it. Is it definitely needs to be removed. So I think I'll use the ratcheting pruners. And come in and make a cut here. Trying not to cut all the other roots off. So here I go. So that's got a lot of it cut. Maybe I can rip it. Yeah. So that gets that root removed. That was not a very good looking root. It was getting too big and bulbous, and even the direction isn't very radial. So next I'm going to cut this root back. It's getting quite thick, and I think I'm going to cut it back to here. Like that. And then, you know, I want all my roots radial, if possible. And this one's getting a little far off, so I think I'm going to nibble that one back, removing it entirely. I just do not like the direction of it. So here I go. Just cutting it back. I think that's got it. It's a big wound, but you know, ficus tend to grow roots around the wound and it heals over eventually. So I think that's corrected a lot on this side of the root system. Even this root is, you know, it doesn't flow down into the soil very well. It does a bit, but I don't think I'd want to remove it because it's, you know, part of the root. So I think that one's okay. So let's just comb out the roots here. These front ones are looking pretty good. There's a root I could prune off here that's kind of crossing. These ones are okay. Once they get a bit stronger, I could prune them back. I will do a little bit of profile pruning to these ones. So next, on the other side of the tree, you can see this root isn't very good either. Here's the radial direction. It's getting too far off, so that's got to be removed. I'm hoping I can get in here and remove it. Like that, so that one's come off. There's an aerial root coming down from that branch that's going to the soil, which is that worth keeping? It'll strengthen up and this will fill in eventually, I guess. I'll leave it for now. It's not really doing any harm. These roots back here aren't flowing in a good radial direction, so I'm removing those. And then
I've got a root thickening up here quite a bit that needs to be pruned back, so I'm going to cut it off here. And these roots, when they form kind of a, well, you can see on the root, they start off skinny, they fatten up like a potato, and then go skinny again. So I generally try and cut them at the thickest point, so eventually you get nice flowing roots. These ones I'll just cut back a bit. There's one growing from the top of the root base here. I'm going to remove that one. This one too. I've got a root out the back here. The radial direction's here. It's getting a little bulbous at the end. I'm just going to prune off that part of it, keeping my roots on the bottom. There's an aerial root here that I think is okay. You know, I think I'm going to get rid of this radial root, or this aerial root on the bottom of the branch here. I think it's going to cause problems in the future. And I think this one too. I think it's also going to thicken up and cause problems. So I'm having a look at the root base now. I'm still, you know, if here's my root plane, this is a little high here. I have a root down lower. I think I'm going to take off this one. I'm going to prune it back to here, like that. That helps kind of get the root base flowing into the soil. I still think this one needs pruning back a bit further. Now let's go underneath. There's a root kind of in a strange direction there. I keep the roots on the bottom, but I just shorten them. Keeping it flat on the bottom, and the top flows down. There's a root on top there I could remove. There's one growing up here I can remove. Crossing root here I can remove. This one's going a bit of a funny direction. Shorten these ones. Okay, final inspection time now. This one's kind of growing parallel to the other root. I'm going to trim it back a bit and redirect it more as a radial root. Okay, I think that's it for the root work. That was I did a fair amount of roots, but there's a lot of good roots left. I'm just looking at the root base to see which side I like better. This side or this side. I think maybe this side's a little nicer. I don't know. Yeah, tough call. This side's not bad either. Okay, well, I think it's time to plant the tree now. Here's a look at the roots I took off. So some big bulbous ones, and there's what I'm left with. So yeah, I would say I took about close to half the root system off. But, you know, it's got a good root system left. I think the tree won't skip a beat. I was cleaning up this pot, and this pot's supposed to be, you know, a high quality Korean pot. And I noticed there's a lot of the glaze is kind of chipped a bit at here. It almost looks like there was a clear glaze over the green glaze or something. And then I was looking at the bottom, and I noticed a hairline crack running from this drainage hole all the way out to the edge here. Now this pot's never seen frost. It's still strong, but yeah, it's a little alarming. And that's a stress crack. So these pots, they cool down at nighttime, and then in the daytime they heat up and they cool down. And repeating that cycle, if there's any built-up stress in the clay after firing, it'll show itself, and it could be, you know, after many years. So the question is, do I put this tree back in the same pot, or do I get a different pot? That is a good question. This pot isn't very deep. I know I would get better growth if I put it in a deeper pot. But at the same time, I don't want too big a pot, or you'll get all kinds of rapid coarse growth on the tree. I'm trying to keep this tree fairly small. So I'll look around, see if I have another pot that would suit it maybe even better. And if not, I'll put it in the same pot. And hopefully, you know, it just won't crack in half someday. I don't think it will, but there's always that danger. I was looking around at pots, and I have this pot. This pot is made by me, Nigel Saunders, in 2022. So I think it'll look quite good in this pot. Yeah, it fits nicely. So I might as well use my pot. I think it's just a little bit bigger than the other pot, just a little bit deeper. I think it'll suit the tree quite nicely. So I'll get some drainage screens in here, add a base layer of soil, and plant the tree. It's funny, Chris Marshall from CM Bonsai, who sent me this drainage screen from Ireland, he noticed I was getting low on it, so he said he's going to send me some more. So thanks, Chris. It's wonderful. Chris has a really good channel. He does a lot of nice, awesome penging work. And yeah, if you're into penging, it'll really inspire you. Some of his landscapes with rocks and that, they're fantastic. So yeah, I'll put a link to his channel in the description below, and you can check out CM Bonsai. Okay, so drainage screens are in. I'll get my soil. Okay, a fairly coarse soil. This is my leftover soil. Miscellaneous soil. Okay, I don't want too big a base layer. I've got to see how high the tree sits in the pot. So right now, it's at a pretty good level actually. The roots flare into the soil nicely, so I think that's good. So I need to do a little bit of root combing to get the roots arranged nicely in the pot. Make sure they're combed out nice and radial. And there's a few I have to trim. They're just a little long for the pot, so I'll just trim those ones back. Not too many. A few at the back here, or this could be the front, I don't know. Yeah, like that. I think that's good. Okay, I think all is good. I'm just checking the tree, the height in the pot. The position. Well, let me get you down looking at the front view here. So there is the front view of the tree. So you can see the tree kind of leans a bit to the right hand side. So I think right now it's pretty central in the pot. Let me just look at it from the other direction. I don't know. It looks pretty good, almost central in the pot. I'll just move it over a little bit, like that. I think that looks pretty good. Because I have this branch out here, it kind of needs to be moved over just a bit in the pot. And I think that looks good. I think I'm going to go with that and start filling in the pot with soil. So here I go. And then I'll work that soil in before I add more. I think the ficus will like this soil. It's very loose and airy. So as long as you keep it, well watered, it should be quite happy. Tree feels firm in the pot, so that's good. Okay, I think it's ready to be watered. All right, here I go with the water. I finished the work on my ficus microcarpa cutting of a cutting. So let's have a look at the tree now. I'll rotate it around so you can see it from all angles. Here is a look at the tree from kind of the front view, coming around the right hand side, the back view, the left hand side, and back to the possible front. And again, I don't know which is the front of the tree. I'm leaving all options open for now. I'll put my ficus in the plant room now, warm it up, keep it humid, under good grow lights, and it should recover quite quickly and start growing over the winter. It's time now for today's updates. Here is a look at my larch forest in fall colors. It's looking quite spectacular in the sun here. Beautiful yellows, greens. It's kind of got a mix of all the fall colors here. Yeah, it looks quite beautiful in the sun. Yeah, I love these larch trees in fall. They just look spectacular. Here's Kitty. Hi, Kitty. You like the sun too, don't you? You look beautiful in the sun too. Yes, you do. You just stay off my benches though. I don't want you pushing any more trees off them, okay? Yeah. I still have insects visiting the flowers on my sarissa. You can see there's a bee there. I think that's a mason bee. Busy visiting all the flowers. Yeah, so my sarissa will have to come in tonight. It is going to get cold. But it's out in the daytime enjoying the sunshine, having a bit of a spa day. The leaves are coming off the trees fast. They're just falling like crazy. You can see the ground down here is just covered with maple leaves. As far as the eye can see. Cars have got leaves all over them. So I'll have some raking to do. In the plant room here, my bluebell that I got from Johnny from Tropical Bonsai Inc. is just filling out like crazy. It sure loves this plant room. Yeah, it's doing really, really well. Thanks, Johnny. That's fantastic. And everything else in the plant room is doing really well. I did have my bloodwood tree, when I brought it in the plant room, it totally defoliated. So I think it's a good time to prune it now before it fills in once again. So that may be coming up very soon on a video. My hibiscus has got flower buds on it. And the other one, the flowers have dropped off, but there's still a couple of flowers still coming. I don't have a lot of trees in the plant room yet. I'm keeping them out in the greenhouse as long as I can. I only brought in the ones that are really sensitive to cold. So I've got 4 grow lights on at the moment. The one I got at the thrift store is on here. And then I've got one that I got from Connor here. So thanks, Connor. And one from Ricardo here from the Toronto Club. So thanks, Ricardo. And the ones I got from Adam, which are fantastic too. Yeah, so right now it's 25 degrees Celsius in the plant room and 67% humidity. So all the benches back here, I've got a couple of trees there, but these are all empty still and the grow lights are off. So soon, you know, when I can't keep the greenhouse at a reasonable temperature, I'll have to bring in all the remainder of the tropical trees. And then in the greenhouse will go all my temperate trees. So the greenhouse is always full year round. I have some plants here. These are limeberry. They're native, I think, to the Barbados. So these were grown from a seed. They were given to me. So it'll be interesting to see how the limeberries do. So far they're looking healthy. So thanks to the person who gave me those. That's really wonderful. Kind of a new species. My rubber trees in the plant room here are growing all kinds of aerial roots now across the surface of the soil. I shouldn't have this rubber tree forest and the clump. I should only keep one, but I like the rubber trees and I can't give up one. I just can't. I like both plantings. I don't know if they'll ever turn into anything really cool as a bonsai, but I just like growing them. I think they're a cool species of tree. I love the full-size rubber trees when they grow giant with aerial roots and huge trunks. They're just fantastic. So I'm hoping to turn the rubber trees into something special in the future. So they'll be due for a pruning soon. They're starting to grow pretty tall. Yeah, so they'll get a hard prune eventually. That'll also be coming up. There's lots of work coming up. I don't think I ever run out of work with all these trees. I've always got something to do every day. The trees down here in the basement are doing really well. Everything's green and growing, even though it's quite cool down here. But yeah, everything's doing well. I am considering putting my aloe planting here in the dragon pot. It has, like, the tips of the aloe remind me of the tail of a dragon. And it's getting to be kind of a cool looking plant. I don't know if I'd call it a bonsai, but maybe I would. Yeah, I think I'm going to try that in the dragon pot. I think visually it would look kind of cool. We'll see.
My ficus is repotted, ready to grow once again. And that's all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.